Hey guys, welcome back to the 10,000 step challenge. We are going to do some investigation today to see how many of you guys were able to beat me this morning in your quest for 10,000 steps. And today is going to be an amazing day. Remember I said my objective is to provide more value to you than you could possibly ever expect. I actually want to exceed your expectation. I want to give without the expectation of receipt, and today is going to be one of those days. We have a huge guest who has been on this 10,000 step challenge with me for several months. Has not gone public about it yet. He is on a massive weight loss journey. He's one of the top country music singers in the world. His music is just full of faith, full of wisdom. It is such powerful music. I'm just so excited to see it top in the charts right now. So stick around, guys, because we're going to have Jelly Roll join us a little later in this simulcast to talk about what the 10,000 step challenge has done to change his life, and what simple nutrients and supplementation has done to just dramatically change his life. So if you are not a VIP, today is the day to become a VIP. It is absolutely free for your first month. I'm going to be giving away thousands of dollars in gifts and prizes and incentives today, including a treadmill, including hydrogen water bottles, including hydrogen cleaning products. So what is it, $47 to become a VIP? You're going to win something that's either worth $250 up to several $1,000s. So if there was ever a day to run your first 30 days free as a VIP, today is the day. So you can interact with Jelly Roll and myself. I also have an amazing physician coming on this morning in just a few minutes. We just finished a podcast, Dr. Gioffre. He is the founder of Kick Your Acid. If you've ever used the Kick Your Acid coffee alkalizer or any of his Kick Your Acid greens, we did an entire podcast today. You're not going to want to miss it. We did it on alkalinity in the body and the impact that simple nutrient deficiencies have on the trajectory of your health. And I talk about this all the time. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about nutrient deficiencies. Remember that human beings, all of us need the same things. We need 91 essential minerals. We need 8 essential amino acids. We need 2 essential fatty acids. And when we start to become deficient in these basics, we get all kinds of consequences. We get the expression of disease. His personal journey is amazing. The journey that he had with his father, losing his father to esophageal cancer based on just repeated esophageal, gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, or just acid reflux, which really ended up taking his father's life, was what really propelled him to build Alkaline and create these products for coffee and for alkalizing the body. Remember, he agrees with me that drinking alkaline water is not a way to bake the body alkaline, but actually eating an alkaline diet can keep the pH range of the body in an alkaline state. So I'm going to open it all up for questions for 2 hours with the VIPs today. I'm going to bring the one and only Jelly Roll onto the podcast, onto the simulcast. For you guys that are on YouTube, if you're on Facebook, if you're streaming live directly on Zoom, I really encourage you today, get your free 30-day trial, become a VIP today, and get in the room with us after this first hour. We're going to have a ton of fun. We're going to do a ton of giveaways. We're going to inspire a lot of people. We're going to hear from some top docs in the industry, and we're going to hear from one of the greatest country music legends of all time, in my opinion. So let's get right to it. Let's see if any of you guys were able to beat my steps today. I really wanted to put you guys in pain, but I did not go that hard this morning. I actually got out of the house late and I had to be back for the podcast. It took about 2 hours to run this podcast before we got on today's live. So there might be a lot of you that beat me today, but I want to select a couple of winners to get a free hydrogen water bottle. I want to select a couple of you to get one of these hydrogen cleaning bottles, because remember, we talk a lot about how we need to build this fence around our body, this imaginary fence, and filter things before they get to the temple, rather than allowing our temple to be the filter. And I think, having this mindset that we love ourselves enough
to make intelligent choices before things enter our body, whether it's food or water or other compounds that we're putting on our skin that we're eating that might have hormone disruptors in them. This slow progression of what I call cumulative dose toxicity, which is just robbing us of being in a state of optimal health. And you know, in the United States, we use something called single dose toxicity to determine whether or not something is toxic enough to be served to the public. So believe it or not, there are certain amounts of pus that are allowed in meats. There's a certain amount of bacteria that are allowed in our foods. There are certain amounts of chemicals that are allowed to be embedded in plastics. Hormone disruptors like bisphenols, BPAs. By the way, BPAs is a special focus of mine because a lot of people don't know that BPAs, bisphenols, until the mid-60s were actually used as synthetic hormones in women's hormone therapy. In some cases, they were even used to induce labor. And so these aren't just hormone disruptors, they are actually synthetic hormones. I don't know what scientist had so much time on his hands that he decided to take a synthetic hormone and mix it with plastic and realize that when you put synthetic hormones together with plastic, you create a more viscous surface so that things don't stick to the plastic. And then somehow the plastic industry adopted this synthetic hormone as a way of making their plastic more viscous. And the studies that are out on bisphenols and these BPAs in warm water bottles and cans of like tomato paste that are highly acidic, foods that leach these BPAs from the wall of plastic, showing that a can of tomato paste that is in a non-BPA free plastic-lined can has enough BPAs in it to shift a woman's menstrual cycle, to take a woman from follicular to ovulation, ovulation to luteal. Just think about the power of something that is so hormonally disruptive that can actually shift a woman's menstrual cycle just from a can of BPA-laden plastic. So we're really going to go on this journey together, guys. These challenges are always going to be free. I'm really going to encourage you guys to become VIPs and pay the $47 a month to get the extra value. But at no time will I ever stop giving value absolutely free on these challenges. We've got cold plunge challenges coming up. We're going to do food challenges. We're going to do all kinds of things. So I live for these. These are literally just chicken soup for my soul. So when we talk about some of these things that we can do to put this fence around our body, filtering our water, adding hydrogen to our water. I actually want to bring Dr. Gioffre on in a few minutes to talk about how he uses hydrogen water when he does his gut healing protocol. And I'm going to make sure that we get this done before we actually move to the VIPs, because I just think it's so important for all of my audience to understand the importance of gut health. But more importantly, I get a lot of questions and a lot of requests to talk about not just gut health, but Gary, how do I get off of PPIs, proton pump inhibitors? How do I get off of antacids? Because every time that I stop taking antacids or Tums or Rolaids or Nexium or Prilosec, the acid reflux comes back. And even though I know it's bad for me and it's destroying the downstream portion of my gut, I can't seem to get off of these. And we talked about a specific protocol today on the podcast for getting off of these. I'm not gonna let today's simulcast ruin the podcast, but I do want to give you some tips and tricks, some really practical things that you could put to work in your life starting tomorrow that could start walking you towards having a healthier gut biome, improving the stomach acid, the contents of acid in your stomach, so that we repair the digestive tract from the beginning all the way through to the end. Because as you know, so goes the gut, so goes the body. I had a very, very interesting podcast a few weeks ago. I hope you guys have watched it, with Dr. Palmer, who is a board certified MD with Harvard University, and he's in their psychiatry department, and he is actually treating the most drug-resistant psychiatric illnesses with diet and lifestyle changes. Here is an MD PhD at Harvard working in the psychiatric department, who is actually working with the most drug-resistant patients in the world. Now, and when I say drug-resistant psychiatric illness, I am not talking about people that have a little depression or a little anxiety or a little bit of an impulse control disorder, or they're suffering on and off from ADD and ADHD. I am talking about dramatic psychiatric illness, schizophrenias, paranoid schizophrenias, real mental illness that just tortures people inside their own minds, trapped inside of their own bodies, walking them out of this instead of chemicals and synthetics and pharmaceuticals, actually using diet and lifestyle changes and walking these people back to having a normal life. So it's just super, super inspiring. So, all right, let's get right to it. You guys are already don't start bragging about all the work you did this morning. You don't know how many steps I took. Steve Thordu, 7,322. Dude, DMB did 12,641 steps this morning. I don't know who you are, DMB, but I think we may already have a winner. Somebody took 7,300. I see 19,762 total for the day. Someone got up early and got after it. So I was proud of myself until DMB came along. Shame on you, DMB. This is my show, not yours. But there it is, guys. Let's get a little zoom in. Let's see where we are. 7,904 steps today. So I did 7,904 steps today. So if you did more than 7,904 steps, I want you to put your name into the chat. This is on the honor system, so I need you to take a screenshot of your iPhone and just text that image into the chat so my staff can see it. Man, a lot of you guys beat me. Michael Olaine got 8,992. Kay Saray. Jessica got 8,500. Dude, Keith Evola crushing it with 10,011 steps. By the way, guys, this is the number of steps you've done before we got on here. My staff is saying some of those in the last 24 hours. It's the number of steps you did today. 13,593 this morning on a walk. Oh, you did 5.6 miles. You dirty little bird, Betty Criado. Man, you just ruined everybody else's day. Got up early and got after it. Great job, Debbie. Jesse Thomas, 7,600. Jessica B, 8,500. Keith Avola, 10,000 steps. Like, guys, it's just amazing because whether you win a prize or not, I mean, you're all just, benefiting tremendously from this. Steady state cardiovascular exercise, in my opinion, is one of the most overlooked forms of exercise on the surface of the earth. We do not really harness the power of just a simple walk. Remember, we talked yesterday about the lymphatic system and how it's a static system, right? Our arteries have the pressure of the heart, our veins have the pressure of the heart, our lymphatic system, the system that really eliminates waste, doesn't have the luxury of having the heart behind it to return waste back to an area where the body can get rid of it. And so walking, contracting our soleus and our gastroc muscles in our calf, using all of these quad muscles and moving lymphatic fluid from our lower extremities and our upper extremities and around our abdomen into an area of the body like the femoral veins where we can actually get rid of it is a major, major win. So it looks to me like Betty Criado, if I'm pronouncing that right, with 13,593 steps, might have won today. So Debbie, amazing job. I am sending you an Echo water bottle. So if you paid the $47 to be a VIP, you just got 5 months of your VIP paid for. So I'm sending you an Echo water filter or an Echo hydration bottle today. And then we're going to give away a bunch more. I want my staff to select the top 5. You're all going to get Echo water bottles. The next 5 people are going to get these cleaners for your countertops. Remember, this thing is amazing. It makes hypochloric acid. You buy this once for about 99 bucks. I use it every day. You fill it with water. You put a little scoop of sea salt in here, and the sea salt, when it interacts with hydrogen gas, becomes hypochloric acid. It is 80 times more virucidal and bactericidal than bleach, and it's harmless to human beings. You can actually spray it on your skin. I don't suggest that, but you could. It's harmless to pets. It's harmless to kids. We talked yesterday about the toxicology report that came back from Swifters. being one of the absolute worst things for moms and dads to use when you have young children and infants in the house, because the chemicals that are in the Swiffer are some of the worst forever chemicals. They're meant to be on the floor and on our tile for a reason. And when babies crawl around, they put their little feet and their really sensitive skin against the surfaces that have that. Sometimes they lick their hands. You know, they're taking in a lot of these forever chemicals, and it's just absolutely unnecessary. We don't need the bleaches and the chlorides and the chlorines and the abrasive cleaners and all of these polyphenols and everything else to get rid of germs. We can use simple things like apple cider vinegar, baking sodas, things like hypochloric acid, and you can take a whole class of hormone and endocrine disruptors out of your life and actually save a ton of money doing it. So it's 11:15, right off camera is Dr. Gioffre. I want to bring him on, and I want to start opening things up for questions this morning. I want him to talk a little bit about his gut protocol. I want him to talk about the importance of alkalinity in the human body. I just want to shower you guys with value this morning. And so welcome to our podcast, our simulcast here. Dr. Geoffrey, let's move this over. You guys got to tell me if we can both be on camera here.
Morning.
Morning.
Good to see everybody.
You can probably only see it from the waist down right now.
That's good.
I made him wear an Ultimate Human t-shirt. He is wearing his acid kicking t-shirt. I said, take that off. Put on, these are Ultimate Humans here.
Right on, right on.
So guys, it's a little weird just looking right into a camera. You can see yourself over here with a
it's
little
wild.
bit of a delay. So what I want to do, you know, we just did an amazing podcast. Dr. Gioffre has an incredible story to tell, not just about his own journey with mold toxicity. And, you know, a lot of you guys, we've done entire podcast on mold toxicity. It's one of those things, mold and mycotoxins are one of those things that just kind of hide in plain sight and create such a diffuse myriad of symptoms that people rarely are inclined to actually start testing for mold toxicity. If you're like us and you live in Southern Florida, Miami and Malibu, California are the mold capitals of the world. You know, we have such a temperature gradient and such a humidity gradient that we have a tendency to have lots of mold spores that you cannot see that are hiding behind your drywall. That's one of the reasons why I'm so big on air filtration and using air filters that have an ozone setting. So you can actually run ozone and kill mold spores behind the wall, even kill termites in your crawl spaces. But I want to get back to the 10,000 step challenge. I want to get back to movement, and I want to talk a little bit about alkalinity in the body. What do they need to know about being alkaline, eating an alkaline diet, and talk a little bit about gut health.
So the main purpose of eating alkaline is not to make your body more alkaline. That's the most important thing we need to know, because that is a constant thing. When I'm talking about alkalinity, we're talking about the alkalinity of your blood. It's a constant number. It's tightly regulated. Just like we have a temperature, on average 98.6, it could be a little higher, it could be a little lower, but your body regulates that like a thermostat. The same thing happens with your blood pH. The pH of your blood is so important. If that pH dips down by more than a point, guess what happens? You die. So what you put into your body is critical. There's so many naysayers out there. They're like, oh, you know, he's always talking about there's no purpose of eating alkaline because the blood is always tightly regulated. It does it itself. Yes, I agree. It does do it itself. The whole purpose of eating these strength-eating foods that are loaded with minerals, right? Because minerals is what we need to alkalize the body, to neutralize the acid that we get from common foods that we shouldn't be eating, right? So the whole purpose of putting these foods into the body is not to make the blood more alkaline, not to make the body more alkaline. It's to take the stress off your body's buffering system so your body doesn't have to do the regulating on its own. So let me give you an example. If it's freezing cold, I'm wearing a t-shirt, New York City is where I'm from, and I go outside, what happens is my body has to start to rob Peter to pay Paul. I gotta stay alive, so I'm gonna start to shiver. The shivering is what keeps my temperature at 98.6, but guess what? I gotta get out of the cold, or else I'm gonna be in trouble. I'm gonna die at some point, right? And if it keeps on going on, eventually the body's gonna take the blood from the fingers and from the toes to bring it to the more important organs, the visceral, to keep you alive. Now what I can do is I can just put a coat on. The coat is the analogy of neutralizing the acid in the body. So the whole point of putting in foods that strengthen you from the inside out, I'm talking about green leafy vegetables like spinach and kale and watercress and romaine lettuce and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and healthy plant-based keto fats like avocado, which I call God's butter, has the most important macros that your body can get every single day. Healthy nuts and seeds like macadamia nuts and Brazil nuts, right? Brazil nuts are high in selenium, so important for your connective tissue. These are just some examples that your body needs because these foods are loaded with minerals. They're low in sugar, they're high in minerals, and it's these minerals that your body needs to get rid of these dangerous, damaging toxins, acids that take us out over time. So that's the reason why we have to put these foods into our body.
You know, it's funny how he and I got together. I started my wellness practice in Naples, Florida. His company, the acid kicking coffee alkalizer, is produced in Naples, Florida. He lives in Naples, Florida. I was actually using his product for a few years before we ever even connected. And then when we connected, I heard about his story, his personal journey with mold toxicity, the journey that he went on with his father, you know, passing away from esophageal cancer, directly related to gastroesophageal reflux and acid reflux. And I think that there are so many of these silent issues going on in human beings, and we because they are not present enough in our life to disrupt our life to the point where we have to come to a complete stop, we tend to ignore them because they become less and less of a priority because we're able to manage the symptoms with antacids or manage the symptoms with proton pump inhibitors. And all we're trying to do is just make this nagging, you know, acid reflux less troublesome and less of a nuisance in our life, instead of thinking, well, how do I permanently put this in the rearview mirror? You know, yesterday we talked a little bit about the difference between developing coping mechanisms for things like anxiety, depression, ADD, ADHD, OCD, and developing mechanisms to permanently get rid of them. You see, I would rather, you know, for all of my clients, I would rather you have a permanent solution and not have to learn to cope with a lot of these things and be able to put them permanently in the rearview mirror. And so many of you guys are watching this right now, and you're like, oh my God, I'm suffering from acid reflux. My husband, my wife, my father, what have you, has been suffering from acid reflux for years. So today might be the day, the serendipitous reason why you're on this podcast today. I keep calling this a podcast. What is this thing? It's like a Zoom, whatever it is.
A live Zoom.
Oh, it's a live. So the reason why you're on this live today, you may not even know why you're on here, but it could very well be to get this message. And I believe that there's a lot of serendipity in the world. And we talked about how our faith drives both of us. And I don't believe in coincidences, neither does he. We both believe in serendipity. So maybe the reason you're on this podcast today is to get the information that we're about to tell you and share it with a loved one so you can permanently change the trajectory of their life. And so I want to talk a little bit about your gut healing protocol, because this is basically free, except maybe for some of the testing that you do for your gut, but and some of the testing that you might be able to get done for food sensitivities and food allergies. But what was astounding about the podcast that we just did was he was one of the few guests that actually gave a very specific protocol, which I appreciated, for saying, what if myself or a loved one right now is constantly taking these antacids and proton pump inhibitors, and every time they stop, the acid reflux comes back, so they just have not been able to get off of these. And he walked me through a protocol that he's used in thousands of patients to get them permanently off of these proton pump inhibitors. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way, you guys finding this valuable? If you are, can you just throw a thumbs up into the chat or give me a thumbs up into the screen? Because without interacting with you, sometimes it's hard for me to know if you guys are really enjoying. Oh, I got some thumbs up there. Nora, Jeremy, David, all firing the thumbs up. Okay, great. So let's talk about, like, one of the tips that you gave me, 30 minutes before each meal to actually help improve the acid in the stomach.
Yeah. Apple cider vinegar is one of my most favorite biohacks. And the reality of this, Gary, is that 50% of people, the research shows, who are actually tuning in right now have reflux. They're on some, not just reflux, they're on some form of PPI or over-the-counter medication to deal with it.
Wow.
So it's something that we have to take serious. Even if you think that it's not a serious thing, it can become something very serious. This is why I'm so passionate about this. I lost my father to esophageal cancer, and that was from silent reflux that was developing over the years that was just not addressed. So this is why it's so important we have these conversations. But what Gary's talking about is 30 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. For most of us, that's dinner time, 20 to 30 minutes. What you want to do, if you don't, you should do this whether you have reflux or not, because the idea of this apple cider vinegar shot is to optimize digestion. Something I always say is that you're not what you eat, you're what you digest, absorb, and assimilate. So you could be eating the best organic, clean foods in the world, but if you're not breaking down those foods, if you're not digesting the foods, guess what? You're not getting those foods into your cells, which equals energy, right? Health is energy, but it comes down to the health of your cells. The quality of your cells is the quality of your energy, the quality of your life. So by doing this, whether you have reflux or not, it's gonna have a massive impact on your digestive process, and that in turn is gonna have so many downstream effects on your thyroid gland, your energy, your metabolism. So again, 20 to 30 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. If you don't have reflux, you can go to 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and you wanna dilute that, very important, don't do it straight up. You wanna dilute that with 1/3 cup of water. Ideally warm water, because warm water will actually stimulate the gastrin secretions in your stomach, which makes more hydrochloric acid, right? That's the goal. Because maybe something we should say is that the cause of acid reflux is not too much acid in the stomach, contrary to common sense, right?
Yeah.
And it's actually too little acid. And by the way, that's supported by 16,000 research journal articles. So the goal as we age is to get stronger, right? But it's also to create more acid in the stomach. So this is a great biohack. So again, you take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar if you don't have reflux. If you do have reflux, let's go a little more gentle. Let's do 1/2 teaspoon so you can make sure it's not gonna stir anything up. Add that to 1/3 cup of warm water or regular water, room temperature water, ideally hydrogen water. And then what you do is you drink that on an empty stomach, and then 20 to 30 minutes later, you're gonna have your meal. And what you're gonna find is that it's gonna help you break down your food, you're gonna digest your food better, you're gonna create less food sensitivities, less inflammation in your gut, less leaky gut. You're gonna feed the good guys, not the bad guys. So in other words, you're gonna feed your healthy microbiome, the good probiotics, not the stealth pathogens that are most likely living inside your gut that are taking out the good guys. So there's a huge knock-on effect to this one little thing that takes literally less than 30 seconds.
That is awesome. And then we talked about, so those are people that are maybe not actively taking proton pump inhibitors, not actively taking Tums or Prilosec or antacids every day. And then there's a category of people that have actually been taking these things for years. And if 50% of the world's population is on some kind of acid balancer, that means that somebody on this live has been on these for years, or a loved one that has been on these for years, disrupting the entire downstream absorption of nutrients in their bodies and creating consequences that may be silent now, they're going to creep up later in life. So I want to talk about the folks that have been on these PPIs for a long period of time, Nexium, Prilosec, Tums, Rolaids, antacids, what have you. And the apple cider vinegar is not really enough for them. We have to actually restore the natural acid balance in the stomach and then slowly titrate them off. And one of the things that he suggested was a test called the mediator release test, an MRT. I'm actually extraordinarily familiar with this test. I'm a huge fan of the MRT test. There's another one called the ALCAT test. I believe that the same PhD developed both tests. What's interesting about this test called an MRT, mediator release test, is that it actually subtracts your existing state of inflammation to give you a true measure of what foods you are sensitive to and what foods you are allergic to. A lot of food sensitivity and allergy testing is very 1993 science. They do not subtract your current state of inflammation, so you get a lot of warnings on foods you actually are not sensitive to and you are not allergic to. They only barely move the needle, but because your inflammatory state is so high, it shows up on these tests as a very, very allergic substance or something you need to completely avoid. And in many cases, that is not the case. So one of the things he suggests is doing this MRT test, this mediator release test. You do not have to do this test through me or through him. You can Google MRT, mediator release test. It's something you can even do in your own home. You can send it back and the report will come back to you and it will tell you exactly what foods you are sensitive or allergic to. And then once they know this, where do they go from there?
Well, I think the most important thing about that is you know what the inflammation levels are coming from areas that you probably didn't have a clue of before. I always like to say we don't die of old age, we die of inflammation, right? And
You're going to see me start using that on a regular basis, guys. Yeah, I just stole another one of his.
But it's crazy because when people get on a health kick, they want to change their lifestyle, they want to do a reset, they start to put in foods that are healthy. When I first did my first MRT test, some of the things that came up were foods I was eating on a regular basis. Avocado, we love avocado. We just had avocado.
Yep.
It's God's butter. It's the most beautiful food in the world.
Yep.
But for me, in that moment, it wasn't good for me. Now, it's healthy for me, but my body couldn't digest the avocado and assimilate it, and because of that, it was creating inflammation in the gut. So what I had to do is stop the avocado for about 3 months or so while my gut had some chance to heal.
Yeah.
So that when I added that back in, my gut was able to handle this once again, right? So it's going to give you a list of 170 different foods and chemicals of basically how the inflammation is being created inside your gut that you probably had no clue that was going on. And it's important because when you start to make better changes and better health decisions, now you're making this about your body. This is not just about, hey, I'm gonna follow this specific diet. Like I call it a strength eating diet, right? But this is about your bio-individuality. This is about what you need specifically in this moment to lower inflammation, to increase the nutrients, the micronutrients into your body, into your cells, and ultimately extend your longevity because you're really just coming up with a plan that's going to help your body heal from the inside out.
Yeah, I always say that what can't be measured can't be changed. When we have data, and I always encourage people to get data on their bodies, get the DNA test to get data on what you need to supplement with, get a blood test so you know where you stand with your sugars, with your hormones, with your nutrient deficiencies. But if you are suffering from gut dysbiosis, issues with your gut, or reliance on PPIs, or these antacids, then we need to figure out first of all, what's going to inflame and irritate the gut. And then secondly, we need to start walking ourselves out of it. So after we get this information and we take the pressure off of the inflammatory process, which is kind of stage one, where do we go from there in terms of repopulating the flora in the gut and healing the gut? Because people that have had this GERD for a long period of time, they do have some damage probably to the distal part of the esophagus. This can become something called Barrett's esophagitis, which is a precursor for cancer. And so how do we go about healing that? He talks about one of my favorite peptides, so I'm sure he's going to talk about that now.
Of course, yeah. So the GERD, the reflux, we have to understand, is the symptom. That's the effect. The underlying cause is the dysbiosis, the imbalance in the microbiome. So I want everybody to look at their gut like a garden, right? You want lots of flowers. We don't want lots of weeds. The flowers are the probiotics. Pro means for life, probiotic for life. But the reality is that we get, research shows, 1/1,000,000th, say it again, 1/1,000,000th the amount of probiotics that our ancestors used to get. It's become critical. You have to supplement. There's 5 big supplements that I tell all my patients and clients you must take. Probiotics is one of those on the list. Kids need it, we need it, elderly needs it. And the one that I like when we're starting out is a spore-based probiotic. It's not an alive probiotic, it's the spore, right? And that spore, the good thing about it is if you're taking an antibiotic, it's not gonna be destroyed by the antibiotic. A terrain-based probiotic like a lactobacillus will be. So it's got really a bunch of different effects. It's gonna help strengthen your microbiome. It's gonna build up the flowers. It's gonna build up the healthy side of the microbiome that we want. It's also gonna nudge out some of the bad guys. We have so many toxins that we're exposed to every single day. They're in the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the foods that we eat, and guess what? Your gut is your first line of defense. So if we don't have enough of these healthy probiotics, it's gonna take you out. It's gonna cause leaky gut. It's gonna make its way into your bloodstream, and from there, it's a systemic highway to the rest of your body, including your brain, right? So the probiotics are gonna kill off some of the bad guys, but what they also do is they actually help to heal and seal your gut lining. We were talking about a study of 20-year-olds, and they took a spore-based probiotic for 30 days, and on average, 44% healed their leaky gut. 44%, it's crazy, right? So just something like that by itself is gonna have such a powerful impact at getting the strength back into the gut.
And I talk a lot about different types of probiotics and how some of them are really missing the mark. Spore-based probiotics actually fall into a little bit of a different category, but when you take bacteria and you put them in a capsule, remember the whole idea of having a stomach, the reason why we have a stomach is to kill bacteria. That's the role of the stomach. There's not a single probiotic bacteria that can survive stomach acid. So why then would we take probiotics, put them in a capsule, not protect them from the pH of the stomach, swallow it, have it open in the stomach, and just let those bacteria bathe in stomach acid so that you just pass a bunch of dead bacteria into the stomach. This is why lots of you that have tried probiotics, and probably just about everybody on this live has, you've tried probiotics and you haven't really had any success. It's because that probiotic manufacturer is not protecting the probiotic from the stomach acid, and you're just passing dead bacteria, into the gut, and you're not getting all the benefits, and you're reading the label going, wow, this has 13 strains of probiotics. It has 55 billion, what they call CFUs.
Yeah. Who cares about that number?
Yeah.
Don't worry about the number.
Yeah, colony forming units. And so, sadly, most of the consumers, and there's not a lot of good education about that on probiotics out there, so we buy the most expensive, the one that's going to be refrigerated, because somehow that seems like it should be the best one, and we buy the one with the highest number on the bottle, 55 billion colony forming units, or CFUs. Not 9 strains, but 13 strains, and then we swallow it, and they all bathe in the stomach acid, and they die, and you get no positive effect. So spore-based probiotics are amazing. Doing a test to find out what your food sensitivities are and your food allergies are, and then also adding digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes are something that you actually eat midstream. So, I always tell clients to consume food, a little bit of your food, swallow the digestive enzyme, and then continue to eat after that. So we start taking some of the pressure off of the gut biome, and we start handing it contents that have already gone through the first stages of digestion, so there's less gas, less bloating, less diarrhea, less constipation, less irritability while you're trying to repopulate the gut biome. And if we do nothing else for you today than teach you how to repopulate your gut biome, I promise you that alone is going to permanently change the trajectory of your life. And I really liked having him on because we had so many different synergies. We both believe in minerals, like the Baja Gold Sea Salt. That, to me, is the cheapest life hack in the world. We talked about the number of clients we have that are mineral deficient. Most of us understand protein deficiencies and not getting enough calories, but we really don't understand that when we deprive the human body of basic raw materials like the 91 minerals that we could get by spending about $15 a year in a good mineral salt, we get the expression of those deficiencies. One of the other areas where we had a major crossing of the paths that I want to share with you guys is on hydrogen water. You hear me talk about it all the time. I never leave home without a hydrogen water bottle. There are thousands of knockoffs out there. You've probably seen on social media all of these companies, some of which I am suing right now, that are using my name and my likeness and videos like this to sell cheap Chinese knockoff water bottles. The proton pump in the bottom of this matters. This ionic membrane really matters in terms of creating high parts per million hydrogen water. So there's an amazing website, I think we showed it yesterday, called hydrogenstudies.com. If you want to read the studies for yourself, go to hydrogenstudies.com. When you get there, you can actually search specifically for hydrogen water, and you can specifically eliminate any animal studies, and you can just look at the studies on human beings. I promise you, you will be so excited about the benefits of hydrogen water. When you get off of that site, you will know what to do with yourself. So you can actually look at sports performance, you can look at chronic illness like Parkinson's, autoimmune, gut dysbiosis, eczema, psoriasis, all kinds of inflammatory conditions. Read for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Go to the conclusion section of those research studies and just read the conclusion section on the impact of hydrogen. So can you talk a little bit about hydrogen water and like some of the benefits of hydrogen water so they don't think I'm nuts?
I think that already. It's all right now. Well, you got to look at the gut again. Why do we need hydrogen water? It's the only water that I drink, by the way. Your gut should be making hydrogen every single day. It should make 10 liters of hydrogen, but the problem is
10 liters of hydrogen gas.
Hydrogen gas
every day.
Every day. But the problem is it's not happening.
Sounds like a lot of.
Yeah, it's research proven though. It's hydrogen is critical, and because we're not making it, why are we not making it? Because our guts have become so toxic, so acidic. Again, being the first line of defense it just gets bombarded every single day and things just don't start to work properly. That's why we support with digestive enzymes and the things we were just talking about, to take stress off of the gut so the gut can heal itself.
Yep.
That's why we do this. It's the same thing with hydrogen. So we're not making enough hydrogen, so what we're doing, we're biohacking the body by using something like this. You press that button, it makes that hydrogen water. And what I love about hydrogen is that when you drink it, you're doing a few different things for the body. Number one, it's a powerful anti-inflammatory. I mean, this goes to the brain within 30 minutes, lowers inflammation of the body and the brain. This is why people dealing with any sort of brain issue, from ADD, ADHD with children, anxiety, depression, it's a big aspect of inflammation that usually comes from leaky gut, by the way, all the way to things like dementia, Parkinson's. There's a study a few years ago in the New York Times, they were showing that Alzheimer's parallels inflammation of the brain.
I saw that. I saw that. It's a neuroinflammatory study. That's on hydrogenstudies.com.
Yeah, over a thousand
search there
studies.
and put in Parkinson's, you can see that.
Yeah, and the Parkinson's patients were having tremors. They would drink this hydrogen water and they would stop. Why? Because it was lowering inflammation. When inflammation lowers, the body can actually do what it was designed to do, function properly, heal. What I also love about it is that if you've taken an antibiotic or if you're on an antibiotic, what do people always tell you to take when you're on an antibiotic? They say take a probiotic. Well, now we know you want to take a spore-based probiotic because that really helps. But when you're drinking the hydrogen water, this is the most important thing you could do when you're on an antibiotic, because it's the only therapeutic agent that is going to outpace the damaging effects that antibiotic has on your microbiome. What you have to understand is that one dose of antibiotics will wipe out your microbiome, your gut wall, for 2 years. 2 years, that's crazy, right? Think about things like sugar and gluten and artificial sweeteners. They're gonna poke holes in your gut. But when you take an antibiotic, which means against life, that is like a napalm bomb going off in your gut. So if you have that hydrogen, it's gonna help protect that gut lining by building up the anaerobic microflora in your gut faster than the antibiotic is taking it out. The other thing that they did, again, so many studies, but just on colorectal cancer cells, when they combined the molecular hydrogen with something called 5-fluorouracil, there was 100% apoptosis of that colorectal cancer cell. And what that means in English, when that hydrogen hit that cancer cell was dead. Why? Because it's such a powerful antioxidant. It's probably the most powerful antioxidant you can give your body because it's selective, which means one molecule of hydrogen will take out 2 free radicals of the hydroxyl free radical. So basically, it's going to reverse that rusting and rotting and aging process that's going on inside our gut, our brain, and our body.
It actually causes those hydroxyl free radicals to become water molecules.
That's right.
Right? So, hydrogen is H2, and these hydroxyl free radicals are O2. So it essentially makes these OH. It turns these into a water molecule. So you take something that is pro-inflammatory and you actually turn it into a source that's actually healthy for the body. That's the power of hydrogen gas and hydrogen ions in the human body. And I know that ancestrally we got a lot more hydrogen-rich water. If you actually scoop water out of a running stream, you see that it actually has high amounts of hydrogen. You'd also see that it has high amounts of trace minerals like you get in the Baja Gold salt, because it will have all the boring little things that nobody hears about, like molybdenum, selenium, manganese, boron, all of these trace minerals that are so important for cellular function. And we had a long talk today about how getting back to the basics. It seems like a lot of fear mongering, and I really try not to say, don't eat this, it will kill you, don't drink that, it'll kill you, don't do this, it's going to be the end of life. But the truth is, all we're trying to do is navigate around all of the modern day nonsense and get us back to the basics. I've talked about the soil lineage study that was done decades ago in the 40s on things like spinach and broccoli and cauliflower, and the nutrient density of the foods that we used to eat decades ago. Our grandparents and our great-grandparents ate a lot more nutrient-dense foods than we do today. And you talked about a study on spinach that I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah.
The amount of spinach per pound that you would have to eat now to equate just a few ounces back then.
In 2015, it would take you 60 servings of spinach to
The 2015 was the study.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To give you the same amount of mineral content, especially iron, that one serving gave you back in 1948. And now, present time, that 60 servings is now at 75.
So 75 servings of spinach to equal the
Popeye's
same.
in trouble.
I actually just did a podcast with him at Universal Studios a couple weeks ago. I hope you guys saw it. It's I went to Universal Studios and I did
That's awesome.
Popeye and Olive Oil, and I did
Oh, that would have been a great
breath
study
work
for him.
on Access Hollywood. He was actually looking pretty good. So maybe he's eating 65 pounds of spinach a day. I don't know. But 65 servings equals a single serving. So it is an absolute fallacy that we can get the nutrient density that we think we can from our fruits and our vegetables. I am a staunch supporter of the fact that we actually need to be supplementing in order to get those.
And drink your greens. That's what I was
those
saying.
nutrients.
Drink your greens.
So we have about 15 more minutes. I know I've commandeered this entire thing before really taking a couple of questions. I usually reserve the questions for the VIPs. Guys, today is the day to become a VIP. Your first month is free anyway. I want you to jump into the room with Dr. Gioffre and I and Jelly Roll. I'll even see if I can get Jelly Roll to sing us a song. But he sent me a video while he was out this morning on, can you take too many prebiotics and or probiotics? Yes, I want you to answer that.
You could take too much of anything. You know, we're talking about the law of hormesis, which means you take a certain amount of something that's beneficial for the body, then you go too much, it becomes toxic. Even too much water can kill you, right? Mm-hmm. So prebiotics, I like to get through my food. If you're eating at least 80% plant-based in your diet, you're gonna get the prebiotics that you need. Talking about garlic and artichokes and onions, you know, there's so many different ways to get that. And prebiotics are basically the food for the probiotic. Mm-hmm. But again, if you're taking a spore-based probiotic, all you need to focus on is taking 2 of those capsules at your largest meal of the day. And that's whether you're eating fermented foods or not. I mean, because you are going to get some probiotics from the foods that you eat. One of the things I always like to tell my clients and everyone is that you can't supplement your way to have a bad diet. So we have to make sure that our diet is healthy. So try to get some things like kimchi and sauerkraut and pickles because that's some healthy forms of probiotics. But you still have to supplement with a probiotic. As long as you're doing 2 largest meal of the day, you'll be golden.
Awesome. Are there any other ones that were creeping up to the top, Gio?
They asked what brands for probiotics, I think.
Oh, what brands for the probiotics? Go ahead.
Okay.
I mean,
I don't have any affiliation to these brands, but I love Megaspore Biotic. I love Thrive Probiotic. They're both spore-based probiotics. They have the top 5 spore-based ingredients. They're pretty much the same exact. So those are the 2 that I kind of go back and forth with. Once in a while, I will throw in a refrigerated type of probiotic just to get more of those terrain-based types of probiotics because that will strengthen. But as Gary was saying, it's not going to survive the road through that digestive system, the harsh terrain, like your bile salts and your acid in your stomach, as much as the spore base will. So it's really good to rotate, but I always like to kind of do more of the spore-based probiotic for that reason.
Yeah, and I don't make a spore-based probiotic, so definitely one of those brands would be a great idea. I do make a terrain-based probiotic that does survive the stomach acid, so you can go to 10xhealthtest.com and you can actually buy the terrain-based probiotic.
So that's great. So with something like that, you'd want to just rotate, do a spore-based for a month, do Gary's for a month, and keep on rotating back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, I never have got issues since
it's amazing.
I've done that. What else do we have? We've got about
They said,
12 minutes.
What are some good fermented foods to eat?
Oh, I love kefir fermented foods. I personally get them. I get fermented sauerkraut and vegetables from an Amish farm here in southern Florida. So I get them in these sealed glass jars and they deliver them about every 10 days or 2 weeks. But what are some great fermented?
I love pickles. Pickles are great. Kimchi is a really good one.
I used to hate sauerkraut, but if you actually prepare sauerkraut right and you actually mix it with really basic foods, more basic bland foods, I think it tastes amazing.
Yeah, I think it tastes good too.
So I've been eating a lot of sauerkraut and fermented vegetables lately. This Amish farm does an amazing job at their kefirs and their fermented foods. What else do we got?
They asked about kombucha. Is kombucha good?
Oh, is kombucha good? I personally am not a big fan of kombucha because of the sugar content in kombucha. What's your opinion on kombucha?
It's so much fermentation. There's also a lot of alcohol byproduct.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some talk showing that because the fermentation is so high, it's gone beyond the 0.8 legal limit. So, and then you're dealing with all the yeast, you know.
Right.
So you have to kind of, everyone's bio-individualistic, you know. Try it out, see how you feel on it. Does this make me feel good? Does this make me feel bad? I think it's so important that we get in tune with our body. It's something that I don't personally drink, but or suggest or recommend. But with that said,
I don't drink kombuchas either.
There's Can they take apple cider vinegar while taking body health digestive enzymes?
Can they take apple cider vinegar while they take body health digestive enzymes? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Looking for 'em.
Oh, and that peptide we were talking about was BPC 157.
Oh gosh, that's another one. Yeah, we forgot to mention that. BPC 157. I personally think this is a miracle for healing the gut. It's a gastric pentadecapeptide. It's a peptide synthesized from gastric juice. So for people that have had gastroesophageal reflux disease, for people that have had acid reflux for a long period of time, or for any kind of gut dysbiosis, leaky gut, there's some pretty impressive clinical trials that are in the public domain on BPC 157, body protection compound 157. You get your doctor to prescribe it for you, or you can, the FDA just banned it in compound pharmacies, but you can get it in nutritional grade form. I've seen our clinical team work miracles with that. It's actually good for what I call nips and bibbles, little micro tears, rotator cuff, elbows, knees, hips, shoulders, low back. So it's great for recruiting platelets to the site of injury to help repair damaged tissue. It's great for post-surgical repair, according to the clinical studies. It's not my opinion. That's according to the randomized trials on BPC 157. It's a pretty innocuous and is considered pretty safe peptide, but if you have gut issues, that's part of your gut healing protocol.
Yeah, I like to open one up and then put that in water and drink that on an empty stomach because it also heals ulcers. So many people with esophageal reflux, GERD, they get ulcers in their stomach, esophagus, even in their throat. So it helps to heal that tissue. And then, like you said, the downstream issues, arthritis is a big one. It just helps that as well. So you can take them, swallow the capsule, and then you'll feel so many changes in your extremity joints. Like for me, all the adjusting over the years, I feel it in my joints and my hands. Literally within a few weeks, it's incredible. The pain level went down from like a 9 to a 2. So it's just a very powerful, as you said, innocuous supplement that really works.
Okay.
It's asking, what's y'all's take on natural flavors?
Natural flavors?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. I
Yeah,
mean,
depends what-
sometimes these labels will say natural fruit flavors. That's sort of code word for ain't got no fruit. I mean, that's really the code word for ain't got no fruit. This is a pandemic in flavored yogurts. I see people all the time that tell me some of their favorite foods are these Go-Gurts and different colored, different flavored yogurts. There'll be strawberry natural fruit flavored yogurt or blueberry natural fruit flavored yogurts. They are notorious for using multiple food dyes, high fructose corn syrup, and what they call natural fruit flavors to actually replace fruit. And so when you see that, very often it actually means that there's no fruit in that product. And so one of the lateral shifts that I did recently, you guys have probably seen this, is where I just took this woman that just loved to eat these Dannon fruit on the bottom yogurts, and these there was another one, Go-Gurt, and a few others, and I spun the yogurt around, and we looked at the nutritional content. It had 54 grams of sugar. It had 4 food dyes. By the way, food dyes in many cases are antimicrobial. So when you claim that there's probiotics in a yogurt, and then you mix that yogurt with food dyes, the food dyes kill the bacteria in the yogurt. So actually, you're eating the yogurt because you think you're getting probiotics, but the food dye that's in there has actually killed the probiotic. And so had 4 food dyes, and then the yogurt was blueberry flavored, but it wasn't this natural flavoring. But there were no blueberries in it. And so I said, look, if that's the one that you like to eat, you like this blueberry flavored yogurt, we're going to actually go out. We're going to get whole fat Greek yogurt. We're going to put that in a bowl. We're going to take a fistful of organic blueberries that you can buy in a little basket, and we'll just take a teaspoon of monk fruit and we'll mix that up in there, and you tell me if you can tell the difference.
Awesome.
We didn't change the flavor profile. We didn't change the cost. In fact, the cost went down because when you're buying them in those little cellophane tear-off packs, they're way more expensive per unit volume than if you buy a quart of whole fat Greek yogurt and a basket of actual real organic blueberries and a bag of monk fruit. And you'll get a lot more servings out of it. You'll drop the cost, and then the nutritional profile skyrocketed because in this highly processed yogurt there was no fat, It was very, very high in added sugars, and there was virtually no protein. When you eat, an organic whole-fat Greek yogurt from especially A2 yogurt from an A2 cow, less beta casein, then you get the same flavor profile. You actually save money and you skyrocket the nutritional content. So it's kind of
How crazy is that their selling point is low fat? Like that, it's first of all, we want the fat, but we want the healthy fats. But they take out the fat. Now the food tastes like cardboard, so they got to bring something in to make it taste better. There comes the 54 grams of sugar, and then they'll say 0 sugar. Then what are they bringing in next? The artificial sweeteners, which is even worse than sugar for your microbiome, for everything. I mean, artificial sweeteners, they just label finally after 40 years a potential carcinogen. I mean, we've been talking about that for years. So you got to be, anything that says low fat, be mindful, be scared.
Yeah, I think we just got to stop blaming the butter for what the bread did.
That's right.
It's so true.
Asking, what's the most vitamin D you take in a day?
Depends.
It depends on what your vitamin D3 levels are. I mean, usually 5,000 IUs with about 80 micrograms of K2, a specific form of K2 called MK7. But this is why I think you should get data on your body. I think you might be surprised, especially if you're darker complected, how low your vitamin D3 levels really are. If you're Latino, African American, Middle Eastern, if you're any of those populations that have darker skin complexions, you need considerably more sunlight to generate the same amount of IUs of vitamin D3, 25 dehydroxy, as someone with light skin. And so, huge idea to get your vitamin D3 levels checked. Functional ranges for vitamin D3 tend to be 60 to 80 nanograms per deciliter. Most people are below 30 nanograms, which is the bottom end of the scale. And here's another one of those nutrients that when it's depleted, it has all kinds of downstream consequences that you just can't imagine. I mean, it really does weaken the immune system. It leads to osteopenia, osteoporosis. By the way, this is not my opinion. This is well documented. There's even a study on women that it reduces the risk of breast cancer to have vitamin D3 in the 60 to 80 nanogram range. If you want to see that study, send me an email to info@theultimatehuman.com. I'll have my team actually send you that study. Women definitely need to adhere to a good vitamin D3 supplement protocol. So we got about 3 minutes left, guys. Hopefully those of you that are not VIPs, you are going to theultimatehuman.com/VIP. Maybe my team could throw the link in the chat. It's in the chat. Today's the day to become the VIP. Your first month is free anyway. If you just did it for today's VIP chat, so you could win a water bottle and a cleaner. And I'm about to get the announcement on what TREADMILL sponsor we got, because I'm also going to give away a treadmill to one of the winners for getting in their 10,000 step challenge 3 days in a row. And then we're going to have Jelly Roll, a country music singer, on. We're going to talk about his health journey with me and with 10X Health, and we're going to talk about how important 10,000 steps a day is to him on his weight loss journey. And the doc's going to stick around. Will you stick around for a little bit?
Absolutely.
When we go into the VIP chat, that would be great. And then we're going to just open it up to direct questions so we can take a deep dive, because the idea is to add so much value to you that you are embarrassed and ashamed of yourself. And just kidding. Add so much value, that you keep attending these challenges and you help me get the word out about simple changes that people can do to totally change the trajectory of their life, that are free or very, very inexpensive. Cole, how are we doing on the treadmill? What is the manufacturer? Can you give me a picture of it or something? All right, guys, we are heading over into the private VIP chat. I hope that you guys feel that we provided you value today. Thank you so much for your trust and confidence in joining the 10,000 step challenge. If all you did was do 10,000 steps today and yesterday and the day before, then my mission is accomplished, because my mission is to get people moving to fight the sedentary lifestyle being the leading cause of all-cause mortality. I've gotten so many incredible messages from you guys. I even got some very tear-jerking videos from a few of you moms. I deeply appreciate you guys being vulnerable and sending me those videos and just telling me what an impact it has had on you, to just realize how easy it is to get 10,000 steps when you actually broke it up into easy bite-sized pieces. One of you actually texted me that you walked out and did the steps during your lunch break and got locked in the stairwell. So I don't take any responsibility for that.
Do
but
stairs.
I think
Do
that's
stairs.
great. Do the stairs. Next time, put a little wedge in the door so you can get back into
I
the
think
office.
they get more credit for doing stairs.
Yeah, no, I give them all the credit for doing the stairs. I just don't want them to be unemployed after my 10,000 step challenge. So I love you guys. God bless you. I will see all of the VIPs in 3 minutes in the VIP